took out the audio cable, the microphone extension. So I have my laptop like absurdly close to the computer, which is not a long-term solution, but it is something. Let me turn the music down a little more. Because I have the feeling that that's loud. I don't know how. Hard to hear. Okay, let me boost the microphone now that I'm not worried about. All right, I'm giving it 20% boost. How is that? Let me know how that boost has affected it, if at all. I don't know. Part of it also is probably because it's a lavalier and it's hanging a bit low. Much better. Okay, there we go. So because I'm going to be using the computer really close to the car, I'm not going to use the webcam, so you can't see me unless I move over here and I wave in front of the camera. So, no face cam, but hey, working audio, which is better than not working audio. So let me know how the volume for the music is, if it's too low or if it's balanced to my voice. I want it to be, audible music, but I don't want it to be overwhelming my nasally little voice. And then I'm going to get started with, well, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to actually be cleaning out the engine bay, which is why you can see on top of the carb here, I've got some foil, I got a plastic bag, and then inside the carb I've got some paper towel to absorb any moisture, because we don't want any water going down into the cylinders. That's bad. But that's why that's there, because we're going to be washing the whole engine bay out, because I'm going to be changing the fluids, and when we start the engine up, if there's any leaks, I want them to be visible. And the best way to ensure that they're visible is by cleaning all of the areas around, especially around the gaskets. Anywhere where any seepage is going to be happening is where we want clean. So that's the plan anyway. So while I wait for some feedback as far as the music volume, I'm just gonna get some water on my sponge here. And we don't need to be super thorough. I mean, it's going to be impossible to get all of the dirt and grime off an engine without power spray or pressure washer, which, while I do have one, it is a good about, hours drive away from here, which is not something I'm willing to put up with because I forgot it. Honestly, that's the reason why it's not here. Not because I'm lazy, but because I was halfway here when I remembered that I didn't bring it. And that made me a little salty. But I wasn't going to turn around. I'm already way behind on getting started today. I wanted to get started around noon, and it is, 4 in the afternoon, which is way late in my opinion. Don't hear any music. Okay. I can fix that. I can totally fix that. All right. I'm going to turn the music up to 10% here. It's also playing some quiet, relatively quiet tunes because I have kind of mixed soundtracks between seems like Twitch is buffering every 10 seconds. Gene, are you getting buffering as well, or is it just Pepsi? Okay. Because, to be honest, I am running a absurdly long internet cable to get internet down here, and it may actually cut out at any point. Hopefully not. But if the stream does go down, that is totally because someone somewhere may have accidentally disconnected my 300-foot Ethernet cable. So I'm going to put my gloves on, which requires me to disconnect from the microphone. All right. 1 second. All right, I'm back with my gloves, so I'm not gonna bash my knuckles on something sharp. All right, so unfortunately, I don't have a good engine degreaser with me, so I'm literally using some dish detergent, but it does have degreasing properties. And again, the emphasis really isn't to get the engine spotless. It's really just to make sure that there's no fresh looking spots of oil, coolant, or any other fluids right around the seams and the gaskets. You know, as you can see, well, I hope you can see the areas that I'm pointing to, but you've got along here where the radiator pipe, there's a flange that goes between the radiator upper coolant hose and the intake manifold. You got your valley cover here below the intake manifold itself. Although oil shouldn't be coming out of there. If it is, you're in deep trouble because that's primarily for air. But you'll have coolant here. I don't know how clearly you can see it, but down here is where your water pump is. So you're gonna get any antifreeze or any other coolant material will be leaking out of the seams there. Your valve covers and your cylinder heads, those are the areas I'm most concerned about seeing any oil leakage, because the Y-Block V8 that this is, one of the issues that they tended to have was poor oiling to the top end. Now, if it doesn't have oil getting to the top end, it's not going to be leaking from the top end. But one of the things that can happen is that the passages in these engines would get clogged up if the oil wasn't changed particularly regularly by, the owners. And what would happen is that not only would the oil not get up to the top end, it wouldn't leave the top end. So that's something we got to check to make sure. I can see, unfortunately, there's some areas of the engine bay here that I'm not going to be able to reach with the microphone connected, so I'm going to clip it nearby and just speak up when I do that. One of the reasons why I opted for the lavalier mic was that because it has a built-in little alligator clamp, I can kind of clip it somewhere, preferably nearby, Also going to clean these hoses because they just look nasty. I mean, this one doesn't look so bad, but some of these other hoses certainly could use. There we go. That looks better already. Now, banging my head on the hood. That's one thing that I have to get used to in this car, is the hood does not open as high as I expect it to. So I'm always banging my head on it. Alright, looks like you're... Alright, Pepsi. Well, hopefully I'll catch you later. Where was I? Now I'm having a brain fart. But yeah, so, I mean, there's just some areas in here of dust and stuff that I don't really need to clean too much. But I'm wiping them anyways because it's like a, I wouldn't say compulsion to, but while I'm looking at it, I'm like, oh, that's dirty, I should clean that. So, now, there isn't a whole lot coming up, because there's some kind of, basically, you know, the heat of the engine is kind of baked some of this crud and staining on, and some of this staining is purely from, you know, some rust and other things that washing won't actually remove. But, yeah, like, there's no sense in me wiping down these exhaust manifolds because they're all entirely rusted over. And I can't reach underneath here very well. I mean, I can reach underneath, but I can't actually see it. So without being able to see what I'm cleaning, there's kind of little point to it. Alright. So my plan is, because I'm kind of talking while I roam around the car and get dirty water all over the paint. Good job, me. My plan is that I'm gonna try and check chat every 5-10 minutes or so, mainly because I can't look at my computer screen while I'm, you know, head down inside or underneath the car. I was talking to Mr. J Speed on in chat or in EJSA's chat, and we were saying how nice it would be if there was a pair of like Google Glass safety goggles that I could wear so that I could see chat or see the stream in general. You know, what's going on in my OBS preview window and everything. I could see all of that while I was working, so I'd be able to interact. Plus, I think those Google Glass glasses actually have a built-in microphone and camera, so you guys would be able to see exactly, you know, my my eye view. Looks like I bumped this camera here. So, that would be nice, but those, like, smart glasses, I guess that's what they call the Google Glass and its competitors. Although I don't think they make the Google Glass anymore. But that aside, they cost way, way more than I could possibly afford. So, it may be some time before nifty tech like that comes up here on my humble stream. So let's see what we got going on. So much minor work that you got to do in your car, Gene. Oh yeah. No, I know that feeling. I mean, my own daily driver of a car. It's constantly needing this, that, and the other thing. Biggest thing is right now the headliner in my car is starting to come loose. And the most irritating part about it is, of all places that the headliner could kind of let go, it's right above my head, right? And now I'm not a super tall guy. I'm only like 5'7". But it droops down just enough that I can feel it rubbing on my head. And it's really annoying. It's really irritating. All right, so I'm going to unclip my microphone here just a moment and hang the microphone. All right. So I've got the microphone hanging hanging from the hood. I don't think you guys can see it. No, it's not in the view of the camera. But I'm just doing that while I reach around over here and get this side of the engine, and I'm just going to speak loudly and hope that you guys can hear me. One of the things that I want to do is clean these hoses. And yes, I know they're electrical hoses. I shouldn't be dousing them with water, but there's no battery in the car. And even if there was, the battery's been long dead. So it's not really a huge concern of mine. There's just these huge flat areas inside the engine bay that can use a little wipe down. I'm not going to go overboard. Maybe some steel wool or something would be nice for some of this, but again, it's not like a top priority for me. Really what I want is just to clean off any kind of the most recent residue. Anything that would make it obvious when there is actually fresh leaking oil or dirt. Not dirt, but grunge. I don't know what the word I'm looking for is. I'll know the word when I see it, when it pops into my head 5 minutes down the road from now, right? Clean these plug wires off, and I got, there we go, 1, 2, 3, 4. Alright, now I'm repossessing my microphone and sticking it back on my shirt. You guys probably got an earful of like muffled noises while that happened. But now I can get back to cleaning all of the not hoses, plug wires on this side. That's really the last thing that I'm really going to focus too much effort on, just because they look nasty. I mean, they're all, well, this one I just wiped down so you can't see it, but these are supposed to be, you know, black insulated rubber, and it's all like nasty, kind of just, I mean, it's just worn out rubber, kind of gray and discolored. It's got some like deposits of just oil and stuff from rubbing against this or that. And then of course, because I'm short and can't reach everything, and I'm trying not to slam the microphone here up against the side of the car and be obnoxious, I can't quite reach everything. But I think I've done a pretty decent job getting all the stuff that I really wanted to focus on. There's some stuff under the car that I gotta wipe down. Okay, the audio was good even when it was clipped away. That's good to know. Maybe what I might end up doing, if that's the case, is setting up um, setting up the lavalier in a spot where it doesn't necessarily have to be clipped to me, but you guys would still be able to hear it. That's well, something to consider anyway. So one of the issues that we have here in the car shop is that the roof is leaking. And I showed that off on the first car stream I did. I did a little tour of the shop here and showed off the fact that there's some spots where it just needs work. Right now I'm getting out the big sponge. There we go. Use that big sponge and wipe everything down. But like I was saying, there's some leaking issues in the auto shop here, and while it's not affecting the car itself, it has been causing water to pool on the floor, and I just wiped that. Did I just? Yep. I totally just sponged down the lens of that webcam. Oops. I will wipe that in a minute when my hands aren't soaking wet. But to combat the issues with water pooling on the floor, I set up one of those children's like kiddie pools, right? You know, the 3-foot or whatever diameter little, you can't even call it a swimming pool really. All you can do is really dip your feet in it. But I set up one of those underneath the car, and that's just going to collect any of the excess water from this cleaning. All right. All right, so I'm gonna mute myself for a second as I step away and change the water in the bucket. All right, and now I'm back behind the mic. While I stepped off for a second. Hold on, let me adjust the clip on this. All right, while I stepped away for a second, as you can see, I kind of rinsed off the engine. And like I said, I'm really glad that I got that kind of child's kiddie pool to put underneath the car to catch the water, because in a closed shop like this, if that water had gotten all over the concrete floor, it would have been there for days or weeks, and all that's going to happen then is, as it slowly evaporates, it'll raise the humidity here in the car shop and help the car rust. So, last thing that we want. All right, and grab a sip of my water. We still going strong here. Yep, we're still going. I think. All right, how's that look? Yep, I totally. All right, let me put Chatty up over here in the corner. This one camera here actually has a manual focus. So I'm just adjusting that. All right, that's looking much better. Oh yeah. Okay, yeah. No, that visually is looking a whole heck of a lot better. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna keep the microphone up here. And the last thing that I'm gonna do, thoroughly soaked gloves as a washcloth. Boy, am I glad I'm wearing a brown shirt, because if I was wearing a different color, I guarantee it would be brown by now. So yeah, I'm just using the leftover soap and water that's on my glove to clean the plug hoses here at the distributor cap. Alright, so let me sit down Alright, I'm just sitting down here for a moment. See what's going on with chat. Chat does not seem to be active. But, it's fine with me. Whew. So the next thing up on our agenda here, and that music is a little loud. All right, so the next thing up on the agenda here is, well, I need to put oil in her. So in order to do that, I'm gonna go grab my ratchets. Alright, I'm back from the corner. Unfortunately, my ratchet sets, unfortunately, they're on the other side of the room, up against the wall, and unless I move the wall closer or the car over to the wall, there's not really a whole heck of a lot that I can do. So I think the first thing that I need to check is what size these spark plugs are. So let's see here. I got a 5/8 socket size. Now the reason I am concerned with the spark plugs, if I can even find them, are they already out? Oh good, that's great. So someone took the spark plugs out. Now, the problem with that is that I just dumped a whole shitload of water on the car, which means I just dumped a whole shitload of water, some of which has splashed down into the cylinders. All right. So I'm going to work out a solution for that. So I haven't really gone anywhere. I'm just checking. What's going on here? Alright, so the plugs here are RF11Ys champions. Unfortunately, I don't know where all of them are. So, I have in my hand 4 of the spark plugs right here next to the car. But I do not know where the other 4 are, which is something of an issue. Taking a moment just looking around right here next to the car to see if I can figure out where the rest of those spark plugs made off to. Now, intuition tells me they wouldn't have gotten very far. Oh, that was loud. Oh, here we go. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Now these plugs are all a little nasty looking. Let me see if I can show it on the camera. Yeah, as you can see, the plug here, a little rust on the threads. So I'm gonna go clean those up on the grinding wheel. Well, not grinding wheel, but with my Dremel. So I'm just gonna switch to the splash screen while I do that.
Well, I need something to soothe this pain, to cool the lava you pump through my veins, 'cause I'm burning up for you.
Alright, I am back. I've cleaned up all of the spark plugs, and one of them is not gapped correctly. Unfortunately, I don't have the a gapper with me. So I unfortunately am going to have to eyeball it. Now, when you're cleaning spark plugs, not that you can see me, unfortunately. One second here. Let's see if I can remedy that. Alright, so here I am in frame. So when you're cleaning spark plugs, one of the things that's recommended is that you take some sandpaper. I don't have any in my hand, but you want to use a little of that sandpaper to clean up the area between the right there in the gap, right? So a little on the top side, top surface there, a little on the bottom surface. Make sure that that the metal is clean. It's not fouled up with, it's not blackened and charred from carbon deposits and that sort of thing. So I'm just checking to make sure with a screwdriver here that none of these gaps are too wide. And these all seem to be right. They're not all exact. Well, I mean, they should all be pretty close to exactly the same. But without a gapping tool on me, I know there's one here in the house, but I don't know where it is, and I don't want to spend a hideous amount of time off screen while I go look for something. So the thing that I was going to do was check for any water in those cylinders after having dumped a whole bucket load of water down on top of the engine. So I'm going to go do that right quick. So the splash screen is going to go right back up briefly. microphone. Alright, so let me just run my fingers down there. And honestly, one of the hardest things is just finding out where the heck the spark plug hole is when you can't see it. So I'm just checking to make sure everything is dry. We don't want any water in those cylinders. At least no more than would end up in there on a humid or a rainy day. Right? Fortunately, it seems, from running my finger in there, that seems like everything is dry. Yeah, everything, ow. Seems like everything is dry on this side of the car. That plug hole has some water in it, but I think it's just the threads. Yeah, I think it's just yeah, it seems to me that some water on the threads there. It's a very weird feeling in a lot of ways when you're sticking your finger somewhere where you not only can't see, but where you know that there could be a spider lurking. So I'm just checking this side's cylinder bank. There's some water on the threads there. Just jamming my bit of paper towel there. Soak up any of that water. And yeah, seems to me yep, everything in here is good and dry. Right. It's good. I'm a little I'm sweating quite a bit, so I'm going to take my hat off and hang it over here on the lathe. So before we put those spark plugs back in, I've got a bottle of Marvel Mystery Oil over here, and well, I'll just show you guys here. So I've got that, and so I've got a bottle of Marvel Mystery Oil, or a can, and this here funnel with a nice extendable little flexible hose, and I'm going to be sticking this end down into the plug holes. That's just about the right size. Glad hopefully that'll fit without any issue. But and then I'm going to pour, not too terribly much, but a small amount of oil down into each cylinder bank, so that or each cylinder, and make sure that that is allowed, gives some time to penetrate around the piston rings and hopefully free up those pistons. The engine hasn't been run in over 15 years, so it's kind of a good precautionary measure to make sure that everything is going to move when we want it to move. So I'm going to start from the far side because it's a pain when I have the microphone clipped like that. So let me just deal with this music. The music still seems a little too loud to me. So yeah, I'm going to start on the far side where it's more of a stretch and where I have to hang the microphone up. So I'm going to do that. So I'm literally just hanging the microphone on the release for the I'm hanging the microphone on the release for the hood latch. Didn't think of what it was I was trying to say. And I'm just going to quick pour some of this oil I just poured some of this oil out to make sure that it was all the right color. Hadn't gone bad or anything. I'm going to put my gloves on for this. Now my gloves are absolutely soaked with water from washing the engine down. So, I don't know, yeah, they're cold and slimy. Awesome. Just what I wanted. So, that's a little oil down that cylinder. On to the next one. Now I'm probably using more than I really need to, but this oil isn't going to harm anything. So I don't mind using a little extra of it. What I'm gonna do when all these when all the oil is in and has a chance to sit for a while is I'm going to. Nope, that's the top of that piston. I'm going to hand crank the engine over a couple of times, and the reason why I'm hand cranking it is because well, there's no battery in the car. So, what is going on? Alright, so you guys couldn't hear it, but after pouring some oil down the cylinders, I heard the sound of liquid dropping into that kiddie pool down below. So water is going straight down through the engine somewhere. And it's doing it when I pour into this front cylinder here. Now, I don't have anywhere to put the oil on this side. I don't like the fact that I hear that sound. So, I'm just going to continue with each cylinder. Putting the oil in. And if I hear any more dripping, I'll have to check those. Now what I think might be happening is that the oil that I pour in those cylinders is actually just dribbling out the spark plug holes. Because the two where I'm hearing that dripping sound, the two where I hear the dripping sound is also the two where the piston is at top dead center, or close to. So, what I'm going to do before anything else is I'm going to crawl underneath the car and check to make sure that the oil that I'm hearing is in fact the, or not the oil, but the dripping sound that I'm hearing is in fact the oil and where it's coming from. Alright, I got my mic back. Once again, clipping it to my collar here. And, where's that? Oh yeah, the mic's here. So I've got a headlamp here. And as silly as it feels to put on, as silly as the headlamp feels to put on, it's frees up both my hands while I'm working under the car. So, that's now in place. My glasses back on. There we go. And I'm not going to blind you guys, but let me take this cam. We'll take it down below the car with me. Alright, so it's going to be a bit of a struggle under here to see what exactly is going on. You guys probably can't see a darn thing. My microphone cable's also restricting me somewhat. Yeah. That's a tight squeeze. Alright, so I'm going to clip this microphone back here on the laptop. And I'm going to take the microphone off and clip it just because it is getting in my way. Alright, so good news seems to be that those fluorescent lights that are right on me are really washing me out. I'm like a ghost. But the good news seems to be that that oil that was leaking when we poured some in the cylinders just happened to be from I got bugs flying around my head. Just happened to be pouring out the plug holes from the fact that those two pistons were at top dead center. or very close to, and therefore could not hold very much oil. So the next thing that I'm going to move on to is putting these plugs back in. And well, first and foremost, that I need to find the right socket for this because the too small. So I will be back momentarily. Alright, and we're back. It took me forever not to find the right sized socket, but actually the adapter from the standard 1/2 inch to 3/8 inch drive. Now my spark plug, this you might not be able to see it, but there's a crack on this particular drive plug or spark plug socket. So I don't know how well it's gonna put them in, but we'll find out. So I am going to just hand tighten them all first. I actually got an extender just to make my life a little easier. But I'm going to continue by putting each one of these in. And this one is not grabbing the threads because I was holding it crooked. Now each one of these should be pretty easy to put in, since we did just put a whole load of Marvel Mystery Oil down. It should lubricate the threads for these plugs quite well. I just noticed that my other camera here has shifted so you guys can't even see the engine. So I'm going to finger tighten them in here on the passenger side. Now because the angle on them, not that the plugs are angled, but the angle that I'm reaching from, I can't actually finger tighten them very far. Plus my hands are a little slippery. But once they're in, it'll be a lot easier. Yeah, I got oil all over that hand now. And here on this front cylinder here, just tighten it up. Now the extension doesn't fit. On this side. So I'm hoping maybe just the drive adapter. Yeah, I need a short extender. we go. I grabbed this short extension. That plug seems to already be completely tight. And that one's tight. I'm a little suspicious of this one, just because, nope, that's in all the way. I'm just going to change the ratchet here I got. This one has a flexible head, which is great, except for right now. I'm not going to change ratchets because I can't, with my slippery fingers, get that off. So, just tighten those spark plugs up. And here on the driver's side, we do the same thing. And there we go. One of the nice things about working on an antique car like this is generally there's not so much engine bay nonsense, you know? If you open the hood on a modern car, there's big plastic pieces all over the place. There's so many things under here that it can be a real pain to try and work on anything because you gotta constantly reach around a dozen other things. Just had to get a drink of water there. And now, we need to put oil in. I'm going to be keeping the original oil filter here in the car for now. While I do have a replacement oil filter, I don't really want to while I do have a replacement oil filter, I'm not going to be using that immediately because, well, to be honest, I want to make sure that the car cranks over at least by hand and can be started before I change the oil filter, because I'm going to probably be changing the oil 2-3 times beyond this. The oil that we're putting in now is really just to make sure that everything is lubricated correctly. So, one of the things here that I wanted to check is there's a nut right on the pulley in the front here. I wanted to check what size drive it is, and it seems to be a 13/16 or a 3/4 inch. I'm going to say it's probably a 3/4 inch drive, if I had to guess. The next thing, what is this? It's 11/16. I'm going to grab my 1/2 inch. Now call me crazy, but did the music stop for anyone else? Because it certainly stopped. Music certainly stopped for me. Yep. So, we're just going to quickly shuffle the music again. Back to play. Check things over here. I still don't know where the heck my 1/2 inch drive socket went. Sorry about that. I literally just had this socket and it disappeared on me. So, first thing that I'm gonna do is actually, because we are putting oil in, I'm gonna take the valve covers off so I can apply some oil directly to the rocker arms and whatnot. So in order to do that, I am just loosening up the coil. The washer on the coil is split in two. This particular set of valve covers, as I had mentioned, is very it's very pretty. I really like them and how they look, but they're not original. And since the plan for this car is to restore her to, well, not original, but mostly original in appearance, that means that these valve covers may have to go, as much as I like them. Alright, so I've got the driver's side valve cover off. And let's do something about the passenger side. Now, it's kind of difficult for you guys to see. It's starting to get darker here in the shop. I'm losing the natural light that comes in from the skylights here. And there goes that nut all the way down to the floor. Good job, me. Now, one of the problems that I find you get is that when your hands are slippery, you can't get a particular nut or bolt off, but yeah, like I was saying, when your hands are slippery, you can't get a particular nut or bolt off by hand. But then when you, I'm gonna have to pop those washers off. But the moment that you use the ratchet, there's almost like too much force. You gotta be careful here. I don't want to destroy the rubber. There's a little rubber gasket under the washer. There we go. Now the other side was missing those rubber gaskets, but I'm going to end up replacing the nuts and the washers anyways, and the gaskets will go with them when I replace them. In the meantime, I do want to keep these from being totally destroyed. Now, previously, and this may be difficult for you to see, but the gasket here is a rubber gasket, or neoprene or whatever. But the gasket on the other side, that is a, ow. The gasket on the other side is cork, so it's likely the original gasket, which leads me to believe that this side might have been leaking a little bit. So that's something we'll have to pay attention to. So the reason why I took those valve covers off is I've got a paintbrush here. And what I'm just going to do is I'm going to take this paintbrush, I'm going to dip it in the motor oil I got, and I'm going to brush it kind of onto the whole rocker assembly, the rocker arms, the valves, the springs, etc. And make sure that everything gets proper dose of lubrication up top, and that plenty is allowed to kind of seep its way in to lubricate the valves and whatnot. So I'm on to that. Of course, I just realized that I'm talking into the microphone with my microphone clipped up to the car right here. So you might not have heard that. So I'm just getting everything ready right here. I'm just going to pour a little of the oil. poured a little oil into a spray paint can cap. Just so that I can have a nice surface to dip the paintbrush in. Now I'm being really generous with this oil. I want to make sure that enough of it gets up top here so that when we do decide, or when we do go to start the engine rather, there's no shortage of oil up here. And on the last set of valves, and their springs. Alright, I'm going to just pour the rest of the oil that was in that cap down and do the same on the other side. So, I don't mind kind of being a little reckless with this oil. After all, it's not going to hurt anything. And we want plenty of it here to make sure everything is well and truly lubricated. Any of the valves are stuck, that would be a little troublesome for the performance of the engine. So we just get as much oil as possible. Air in on the rocker arms. Try and get some seep down into along the push rods. And just pour all that excess oil down there. Next thing I'm just going to do is, if you guys can see me, yeah. Next thing that I'm going to do is just wipe my hands off with the rag, put those valve covers back on, and then we're going to fill we're going to pour the oil down the actual filler cap here and let it seep in to the rocker, not to the into the valley cover where it goes, and then it'll seep its way down into the pan. Hopefully, when we hand crank this engine over, it'll get some travel. I'm just going to take a brief sit here. Yeah. Sit for a moment and drink some water. Sorry if you guys are hearing my water slurping over the microphone. But I'm quite thirsty working here in the car. So the next thing that we're going to end up doing, now that I've slathered plenty of oil over the rocker arms, the springs, the tops of the push rods, and hopefully got some on the valves, I'm going to put the valve covers back on. We're going to take the filler cap and breather cap off, and we're actually going to put in the full 5 quarts of oil. Now I'm using a slightly lighter weight oil than is recommended for the car, but the main reason for that is I want the slightly lighter weight oil because we are going to be hand cranking it over, making sure that all the pistons are free, making sure that all the valves and any of the rotating assembly is free, the cam is free, and everything rotates. So I'm going to use the lighter weight oil, and then when we start up the car, we'll run it a bit, and I'm going to change the oil again because I don't know how old the oil that was in there is. You know, the oil that I drained out, I don't know how old that was, so I mean, it could have been gunked up, so I'm using this lightweight oil, this high detergent oil, to really clean that up, and we're going to flush it and then put in the proper weight oil when we're done with that. But that'll be the subject of another stream. So yeah, if you guys have any questions, go ahead and ask them. I'm going to be away from the camera here for a few minutes while I put the valve covers back on, and I'm gonna clamp my lavalier under the hood so that you'll be able to hear me even though the mic doesn't quite reach. So I'm just gonna do that. So I hope that you can still hear me. I'm speaking up a bit louder than I normally would. We're just going to put the valve cover back on. All right, make sure that's seated correctly, which it is. And I gotta put these washers in. And these washers have that rubber gasket I mentioned earlier. And that gasket kind of makes putting putting the nuts on to hold the valve cover down kind of makes them a little bit tough to tighten, but it does the job, and that's the important thing. So I'm just going to tighten these up real quick. I'm not tightening them up to the recommended torque level because we are going to be popping these things on and off several times as we work on the car. So it doesn't really need to be fully torqued up. And again, the gasket on that side is actually one of the original old cork gaskets that came with the car. So it is likely brittle and probably leaks. So again, I'm not going to be too concerned about having a proper seal for the valve covers because, I mean, that's just going to be impossible on that side anyway. No, I'll do that after.
Yeah, that's okay. It's not a big deal. I'll see if I can find this. Sorry for disturbing.
Okay, so I totally had the mic muted that whole time while I was explaining to you why I'd muted the mic. What an idiot. All right, so I had a visitor here in the shop, and so I muted the mic. And then I thought I unmuted it when I didn't. So I've been talking to you guys for a good like 3 minutes now, and you guys haven't been able to hear me. I was just explaining what I was doing while I was putting the valve covers back on, but I guess there's a little point in me telling you guys what I did since it's already done. Sorry about that. I hope that you can forgive my new stream noobishness. Definitely let me know how the music volume, my voice, is coming through, because I had some issues with the audio earlier, and thanks to a few people watching, we got that somewhat sorted out. It's still not perfect, but it's the best that I got right now. So your feedback on just how well you can hear me is much appreciated. All right. So now that the valve covers are back on, we're going to put in 5 quarts of oil. And of course, first thing I do is spill a whole bunch of oil all over the place. What I'm going to do is I'm going to grab the funnel I used earlier. Make my life a little bit easier. There we go. That foil will make things go quite a bit smoother. Provided the oil actually drains out of the funnel in a timely fashion. I think I might have used the wrong funnel for this. Mic is a bit quiet. All right. Unfortunately, I can't boost it too much more, but let's see what I can do here. Since you guys do need to hear me and all. Levels. All right. Let's see how well that does. I've got this at like 30% boost or whatever. So that should do a whole lot better. All right, how you doing, crew member? Nice to see ya. Well, you know, I'm just going to have to be content with making a mess regardless of what method I use to pour the oil in. So, funny enough, I have only changed the oil on classic cars. When it comes to my own daily driver, I'm too lazy. Although, to be honest, I prefer working on under the hood on classic cars because I can actually find everything. On my own car, which is not particularly new, it's 15 years old or whatever, more than that actually. 1999, said like 17 years or something. Um, it's just, I mean, it's a rubbish car anyway. It's a Ford Escort, but it does get me from point A to point B, and I got it very cheap. But I don't like actually doing much of the work on it because, well, honestly, it's like I don't particularly love the car, right? You know. So, you know, I just go to the nearest oil change place and have them do it when they need an oil change rather than go and do it myself. And I realize, obviously, that I'm spending more money to do it. I could do it myself for a whole lot cheaper. But part of that money I'm spending is so that I don't have to do it myself. So, that's 5 quarts. Well, most of 5 quarts except for that what I spilled. But close enough, right? All right, put the breather cap back on. So I've got the, and you guys can't see it, let me take the camera here. The fan, which you guys can't really see, you can kind of see. I got the fan, and that's all loosened so that I can hand crank. So I can hand crank over the engine because, well, without a battery, it's not going to start up. Plus, there's no gas in the carburetor, so if I tried starting it up, you know, from a battery charger or whatever, it's just going to run dry. Plus, the plug wires are still disconnected. So there's a bunch of things that would keep this from actually starting up even if I tried to start it with the key. But since the car has been sitting for a long time, I do want to hand crank it over, at least get a full rotation out of it, a full revolution out of it, to make sure that nothing's seized up. You know, I put Marvel Mystery Oil down each of the cylinders, and that's had some time to work its way in, but quite honestly, I'd probably give it, you know, 1 or 2 days to work. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the ratchet on the flywheel nut, not flywheel nut, on the well, that's a brain fart. I can't remember the name. I can't remember the word I'm looking for. Anyways, on the pulley on the front of the engine, I'm going to just crank it over with the ratchet and see how much of a revolution, if any, I can get out of it. And if we can get any motion whatsoever out of it, that'll be a good sign, because it'll mean that any of the oil that we have in those cylinders is getting a chance to work its way around. But a full revolution or several full revolutions is preferred, because that'll make all the oil that we just poured in start to circulate. Now, by hand, I can't crank the engine fast enough to actually build up oil pressure when the car's running. Or if I wanted to build oil pressure, what I would do is I'd take a cordless drill, and I could put it on a nut down at the bottom of the distributor shaft, but that requires removing the distributor, and that's a pain that I don't want to go through. So we're just going to hand crank it over and hope that gets enough of the oil around. So I am going to get on my dolly, which is one of the few things that I didn't pour oil all over, and get ratcheting. Sorry if I'm a little quiet right now. Unfortunately, I've been kind of at this and other tasks all day, and it was kind of a hot, miserable day on top of it, so I'm a little tired. You know, I'm still getting used to talking to myself too, just kind of a new sensation. It's kind of the weirdest thing about when you begin streaming is like the dead space when you're not talking, right? Because it's like, how long do you pause for when you're not talking? So you're not constantly talking. But if you pause for too long, so where was my car assembled? That is a fantastic question. This 55 Ford here was built in Somerville, Massachusetts. On the VIN plate, I can actually show you while I'm here. And I can go over actually how you read these things. So let me, and I'm at the end of my microphone cord. Let me just clamp my microphone right there. If you open the door, I don't know how well you guys are going to be able to see this. You can see there's the data plate on the car. And it's got a set of numbers up at the top, along with body and trim codes down at the bottom. And the codes up here, right here, there's the letter F that I'm pointing to, and you guys can't see that, so because you can't really see that all too clearly, I'm not going to belabor the point. Whoa, calm down, camera. I'm not going to point at something that you guys can't see very well. But yeah, on the all VIN plates on most cars, they usually have a series of numbers that you can decode. You can go online and find out roughly for what years of your car and what manufacturer. Then there's either a VIN. You can go to some plates where you type in the VIN and it'll decode it for you, or you can just look it up. There's plenty of just like reference stuff, and you just read it and it'll tell you. And the fourth or fifth letter along the letter F on the data plate on this car tells you which of the Ford plants that this one was built in. And it was built in the Ford plant in Somerville, Massachusetts. Now, that plant is no longer operational. It was built, I think, in the 1920s to replace a previous Ford plant that was in Cambridge, Mass., which was too small for the volume of cars Ford was putting out. And so when the what's the word I'm looking for now? So what ended up happening is that it happily pumped out cars up until 1958, 59, when the Edsel, which Ford had tried introducing a kind of into its tiered level of sales. And I'm not going to go into a whole explanation of Edsel and its fiasco. It's certainly something you can at least get the gist of by reading on Wikipedia. But basically, in order to compete with the other two of the big three, that's General Motors, Ford, and then Chrysler, they decided they were going to add a fourth line because Ford has always made Ford as their entry-level, base-level car. Then Mercury was kind of their mid-tier, and then Lincoln was their kind of luxury car. So they tried to put Edsel in, but it was kind of squeezed in there, and it happened to come at literally the worst time. 1957 and 58 were recession years in the U.S., so people weren't as up to buying cars when the economy was depressed. So the kind of death of the Edsel, the lack of success of the Edsel, killed the Somerville plant because they had transitioned the Somerville car manufacturing plant to produce mostly Edsel and Mercury cars instead of the Fords. And when Edsel went under, the plant wasn't justified in just making Mercury parts, and Ford itself had been running low on money, so they ended up closing the plant down, which is rather unfortunate because I, being and living in Somerville, would be cool to be able to drive this car once it's running back to, a few blocks away over to where it was built. But today, that assembly plant is now a shopping complex. I mean, the original building there is still there, the shopping center. You can actually go online, you can look up Assembly Row in Somerville, Mass. There's a sports authority and a bunch of shops there. And the building that they occupy was the original building. I mean, it's been modified and stuff, but it's the same building that the Crown Vic here was actually put together in some 61 years ago. So, that was a nice little chat, but I'm going to try cranking the engine over. Now let's see, I got to make sure I have the right size socket. Now this is going to be tough. Once again, I'm unclipping my microphone so that you guys can actually hear me. I'm glad that my lavalier has this alligator clamp on it, because otherwise it would be really challenging. It would be really challenging to talk to you guys. So, the socket that I have is slightly too small. Yeah, the socket I have is slightly too small, so I'm gonna have to go grab another one from the wall of sockets and wrenches. So, it's not a 3/4 inch, so I'm going to try a 13/16. And that seems to be the magic number. Let me move the camera here so that you can kind of see what it is that I'm doing. I hope that by putting that camera down there, you'll be able to see at least a little bit. Not that it'll do you guys much good. Where I'm working, I don't even have any real visibility, so if I can't really see what I'm doing, I can't really expect that you guys are going to see what I'm doing any better. But maybe you will. See, my hands are absolutely filthy. And you may be wondering why I don't have gloves on. Well, the reason for that is my gloves are soaking wet. Alright, so I'm not getting any movement, which is a little worrying. So I'm going to go grab my breaker bar. Now, biggest problem that I have facing doing this is largely just that I can't really my hands don't quite fit. So I'm going to try on this side. Now, like I was saying, it's just for me, it's also kind of a problem of reach here. I have to maneuver the socket. I have to maneuver it around the fan. And deal with the fact that I'm a little too short for this. Be easier if the and I'm making a mess again. What was I saying? Oh, it's very difficult to reach my hands in there because it's a very tight space that I'm trying to work in, and trying to fit my hand between the fan and that pulley is really difficult, and I think I sliced my knuckles up a little bit. As you can see, my hands are absolutely filthy. Whew. Oh, 57s are your favorite, crew. That's pretty good. My grandfather, the one who bought this 55 Ford here, the only car he ever bought brand new was a 57 Ford. The Fairlane 500 was the, I think but like this, it was red and white. It was just the hardtop. So, beautiful car. I think there's some pictures of it somewhere, but I don't have them that I can just show on stream. But 57s are great cars, and in a lot of ways it was kind of the peak of Ford's performance. 57 was the first year since the 1920s that Ford beat Chevrolet in the sales race. It was a good year. Some people kind of find the 57s a little funky because of their headlights. They kind of, I found them funny at first, but it's something you get used to. I've always liked the kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? Kind of the eyelid look of these. Hey, agitated. Listen, don't make fun of me and my shenanigans. I'm having a brain fart again. Ugh. But I had heard that the reason why the 57 Ford headlights look kind of funky is because they were originally designed for dual headlights that you'd find in 58 and 59, and up through the early 60s. But I guess they, for whatever reason, the government didn't go with the dual headlights until 58. So Ford kind of last minute had to change their design, which is why the headlights, at least to some people, look a little unusual. I actually kind of like the hooded headlights on the 57 Fords. I mean, the whole car is a very stylish car, especially the 57 Thunderbirds. I love the first 3 years of the Thunderbird are gorgeous, and then they got kind of ugly. Yeah, you did finally get a chance to catch me online. I was just in the middle of trying to hand crank over the engine, agitated, so I've been trying to do that, but I've been busting my knuckles trying to squeeze them in between the fan pulley and the other pulley down there that I got my ratchet on. So it's a really tight fit for my hand. All right, so I'm going to try and see if I can crank that over. At least get a little bit of movement out of it. But I only did just put the oil in. So it's possible. Yeah, unfortunately, it doesn't look like I'm getting, and I don't want to put too much pressure on this. I'm not getting any motion just putting, I don't know, like just the kind of strength in my arm. I'm not putting my whole body strength into it, but I'm not getting any rotation. So something might be frozen up. That's a little worrisome. But I put Marvel Mystery Oil down each of the cylinders. Yeah. I'm not getting it to turn over, but it is kind of a difficult reach down there. But right now it's not turning over. We've got I did put oil down each one of the cylinders. I put probably about a shot glass worth of Marvel Mystery Oil down each plug hole, and then took the valve covers off, and we put I took the valve covers off, and I got my brush over there. I used a fine paintbrush in the motor oil that I got, and I made sure that I lubricated all of the the rocker assemblies, so the rocker arms and the springs, the valves, and tried to get some down the push rods. And so those are just drenched in oil. And then, of course, I put in a full 5 quarts. I didn't change the oil filter because I'm probably going to have to change the oil anyways, because I kind of want to flush the system out anyway once the car actually, turns over. So it may just be a matter of taking a couple days and letting that oil actually, sink in and do its work, because at this point it's only been probably about an hour and a half since I oiled those, so I'm not expecting the results to be immediate. On the upside, when I did pull all the plugs out, they were, or when I did check over the plugs, they weren't particularly fouled, so, and there wasn't any real rust on the leads or anything, so hopefully I don't think there's any rust in the cylinders. It might just be, yeah, see, I considered doing that agitated, but, well, I don't know if you can see the distributor. I'll just show you. So the distributor's way back here. Where is that? Hold on. So we're looking at the firewall here, and it's right back there in the corner. And in order to take the distributor off, and now this camera does not want to sit back where I had it now. Oh, come on. See, this is why I don't mess with things. You touch it once, and it never wants to go where you want it again. There we go. Yeah, no, see, one of the things on, especially on the Y blocks here, is pulling the distributor is a nightmare. Aside from the fact that it is jammed way back in the corner up against the firewall, they're really hard to pull out on Y blocks without accidentally breaking them. And since I don't have a spare distributor just laying around, the last thing I want to do is accidentally break mine, trying to pull it so that I can, get the oil pump spinning. But yeah, I think what we're going to end up doing is letting the just letting the oil kind of sit and sink in, and then on Tuesday, which is kind of my next free day, although it's the long weekend, so maybe tomorrow. I'm not sure. Either tomorrow or Tuesday. I might give it till Tuesday just so it has extra long. Oh, what do we got? So we're talking about 57 in their headlights. I was in the beginning stages of building my buggy. I jokingly grabbed my shopmate's 57 front clip and threw it on the frame table. Let me see this. Nice. I like that. It's a fiberglass front clip, right? Yeah. I've always thought about doing. Whoa. I don't know what that was. all of a sudden my computer started playing music. um, yeah, I've always wanted to do if I had the money. I was always wanted to do like a gasser style car. Get something like a early Galaxy or something, or like a Falcon maybe, like a 62 or 63, and just sitting way up high, get a fiberglass front clip for it, and just real. Yeah. Um, oh, nice, nice, a mid-engine buggy. Yeah, no, I love every style of car. Like, I love from like classic traditional hot rod styling. So you have, you get like a Deuce Coupe or, like a 37 Chevy or whatever, right? You know, rip the hood off, drop in. If it's a Ford, you got to put in like either a classic flathead or a small block Ford because I'm firmly a Ford and a Ford guy, Chevy and a Chevy guy, most of the time anyway. Um, if it's kind of an off-brand like a Studebaker or something, and you can't find the original engine parts, or you just can't hot rod the original engine, then you can kind of get away with using something a little more mainstream. But like from like a highboy roadster or whatever, down to like the fat fender Ford customs real low, black chop top, you channel the body and everything, and you even up through like 52 53 for Chevys and like shoebox Fords and whatnot. Those look good with the whole custom treatment. And then gassers for early and mid 50s stuff and early 60s stuff. I love it all, man. Like, you really can't go wrong. Like, there's something about these cars from the end of the 20s up through to like 1971 where they look good no matter what. Well, not no matter what you do to them, because I've seen some horrible things done to done to cars. But when done right, it's really hard to make them look bad. So yeah, I think that I'm trying to figure out what else I have to do. I mean, if I need to let that oil sit for another couple of days before I try cranking the engine, I'm trying to figure out what other things I got to do around here. I was going to pull the carb off and do a carb rebuild stream, but I'm still waiting for the gasket kit to come in from the mail. So I can't do that yet. But I thought that would be a fun thing, and just kind of, I don't know how tutorially it would be, but it's kind of it's an unusual thing because most people today aren't familiar with carburetors, unless you are a car person, and you have a car old enough to have one, or you've swapped one in. Yeah, it's a Holley 2-barrel. I think it's a 2100. It's it's a evolution of the Holley 94. So the Holley 94 was a development for the flathead. Came about, I think, in like 1937 or whatever, and I think they updated the design a little bit when they made the 2100 and the 2110, but it's basically a Holley 94. It uses all the same gaskets and it has the same like bolt pattern. What displacement is it? It's 272 cubic inches, 4.4 liter. So the Y block came out in 54, and it had the same displacement as the Ford flathead that came before it. So the first year had a 239 cubic inch Y block, and the Mercury was a 256. And then for 57, they were going to bump for 55 rather, they were going to bump the displacement up to 256, and then the Merc was going to go up to like 260 something. And then they found out that Chevy was going to release their overhead valve V8 in 55, and that would be the release of the 265 cubic inch small block Chevy, which is still being produced today. If you have a Corvette anyways, you can get not the same displacement, but you can get, what is it, the LS7, still making small block Chevys. But, so Ford didn't want to be upstaged by Chevy's new power plant, so they bumped it up to be 272 cubic inches so that it'd be bigger than the Chevy engine. And then the Mercury and Thunderbird engines were 292 cubic inches. And then for 56, you had the same choice. And then in 57, they had the 272 as the small, like, budget V8. The 292 was their mid-range. And then for your Thunderbirds, you had the 312 cubic inch. And that they even had like a factory supercharged one, which was, I think it was rated from the factory at 300 horsepower, but I think it got like 340 or more horsepower. It was pretty insane. For 57, it was the supercharged 312 Fords versus I think it was the factory fuel injected 57 Chevys. It was a pretty epic like battle in that year, in the early part of that year for the NASCAR 57 season. And then they were like, this is getting out of hand. We need to cut things back to strictly naturally aspirated cars. Oh yeah, nah. Listen, I've always been a Ford guy, but I can't make fun of the small block Chevy. Like, I mean, for an engine design that came out, 61 years ago, and is still cheap. They're super cheap to like modify and hop up. And they're still around in cars. I mean, it's not the perfect V8. They've designed, there have been better designed engines, but it does a good job. It's kind of that jack of all trades thing. Yeah. Well, the thing is like some of it came down to, with the old horsepower rating, some of it came down to like the equipment that they were using to measure was like not as well calibrated as you have today. And some of it was a matter of like either overestimating for the point of like selling, it's like, hey, this thing makes 430 horsepower when it really makes around like 406. But they found the one that like made the 430 horsepower, or they'd take one of their factory engines and they would do a bunch of behind the scenes work, clean it up so that it would get the best horsepower rating they could get it. And then they'd claim that all of their engines made, 430 horsepower when they didn't. But, and sometimes it's underestimating, either for like economy reasons or whatnot. Never been a Ford guy. Yeah. Yeah, no, it's crazy, man. Like, especially seeing where kind of the development of like engine power has come from, it's nuts. Like, there's people who are kind of in the car hobby who will make fun of like four bangers, right? And it's like, I mean, if you see what some of these people with like Toyotas and Mazdas and we call them like racers, but like even you get like a Ford Escort like I've got with a four banger. Or even the Fox body Mustangs, the ones that didn't come with a 5.0, but came with the 4-cylinder. It's like you can get serious power out of a tiny, tiny engine, um, especially with turbos and all sorts of stuff. And it's a lot. Yeah, I mean, hot rodding in a lot of ways. We say hot rodding kind of started with the Ford Flathead V8, but really the first engines that were being hopped up were like Model T engines, like little four bangers, that made like 40 horsepower if you were lucky. So seeing what like all of the tips and tricks that people used, to get every ounce of power back when you couldn't hook your computer up to your car and find out exactly what your rate of airflow was and all sorts of stuff. And just seeing how much, you take a modern, electronic fuel injection system and all of the cool high-tech stuff that you get in cars, and just like pump every ounce of power out of them, and they still make like 25 miles to the gallon. It's crazy. And the V6 Mustangs, it's like, I mean, people made fun of like the fact that like, what was it, the Mustang 2 in like '74. It didn't even come with a V8 the first year. They'd had a 6-cylinder in it, and people were like, nobody wants this stupid, 200 cubic inch 6-cylinder. That's lame. It's a Mustang. It needs a V8. It's like, now you can get a 300 plus horsepower V6 Mustang, and it's nothing. Not to mention, like, there's some crazy ass engines out there that I would love to get my hands on, but could never afford, like, I mean, even like the V10 engines and shit. Those are cool. Of course, now I feel like I'm doing the Prof webcam show rather than the Prof car stream, because I'm just sitting here talking in front of the camera. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, hell, like, the Crown Vic here would be lucky if rolling straight out the factory line, she did 19-second quarter miles. I mean, yeah, sure, 13 seconds is not fast compared to, the people who literally go out and they, take the lightest car that they can, like a Miata or something, and they'll, twin turbo it or whatever. It's like, sure, you can get insane quarter mile times, but Vicky is 3,400 pounds, give or take. I know the ones without the plexiglass top are like, I think they're 3,360 or something. So I'm not sure if the plexiglass top adds or detracts weight, to be honest, but I mean, it's just around 3,400 pounds. Yeah, no, she's honestly not that heavy. I mean, she's kind of right in line with most mid-sized cars. Yeah, crew. Inline sixes, but not just are they reliable, but they can make some sweet power. I mean, right over here, if I detach the camera, you can see that inline six right there is out of my '53 Chevy, which is over there. 235 cubic inch stove bolt 6. It's the same engine that you found on your 53 and 54 Corvettes. The first year the Corvettes were i6s. I mean, no car has i6s nowadays just because they're too darn big. I mean, you got, what was it, well, that's why they went with like the slant 6 and whatnot, was try and, get some hood clearance, but they're just long, man. You need a long hood if you want a straight 6. So that's why we got all sorts of V6. And of course, nowadays an i6 can fit better just because you got front wheel drive cars, you know. Back when you were running rear wheel drive and you had an i6, it was, you know, all that space. And where am I going? Okay, that's where I am. So, with all this chit chat, I need to figure out what the heck it is I am actually going to do. All right, I need to turn my brain on for a second. I've been I've been out straight all day. So change the oil, right? I changed the coolant this morning before I started the stream because I didn't have internet yet. Air in the flat tire, and it's actually holding it. Wash the engine. I don't know if I have anything left to do. You know what'll happen? I'll be driving home and I'll remember, oh, I had to do this. Well, it's, you know, it's even harder agitated because, like, not only am I, like, working, but, like, I have to explain what it is I'm doing, and it's like, I don't even know what I'm doing. How am I supposed to explain what I'm not doing when... I got to, that's something that we may have to do. When I crawled under the car, I noticed that there was quite a bit of, like crud on the outside of the differential. So, I mean, it might be some leaking. I mean, you know, it's not all to be unexpected that sitting for a long time that there'd be some seeping, but, you know, it's something that I want to make sure. I mean, pretty much everything in here is going to need a once-over. When I jacked the car up to change the tires, or not change the tires, but put air in the front tires, I noticed that they didn't spin. So I'm pretty sure that the drum brakes are rusted, you know, together. They've welded themselves together by a rust. And I'm sure it's the same for the back. So there's going to be a lot of things where I just have to pull it apart and at least clean it. If nothing else, just like pull it apart and get all the like gunk out of it. Yeah, man. 4-wheel drum brakes. But, I mean, it's a good at least 5 years shy of seeing discs, really. I'm trying to think what year discs really went into production. I know they came out, I know you had, might have been four-wheel discs on the mid-50s Mercedeses. But I'm trying to think, as far as American cars, unless you're talking like a luxury make, trying to think. I know it wasn't until like 1965 that Corvettes got discs. I mean, even the early Mustangs didn't have discs, so yeah. Yeah. No, there's so many things. Like, and there's so many things that need work on the car where it's not even like the sort of work you put any money into. It's just like, oh, I just need to like take this apart, apply grease, put it back together. Or in the case of like the carburetor, it's just like take it off, take it apart, replace every single gasket and probably a few of the springs, put it back together, bolt it back on. Yeah, no, that's one of the things that I've been having trouble with, and one of the reasons why I haven't been like streaming consistently, this is only like stream 2, is because for a lot of parts I need to wait for I need to wait for like some of the stuff that I've ordered to come in. You know, where things where I need replacements. Like for instance, like the gasket set, because you know, God forbid you can get gasket sets for a 61-year-old car at AutoZone, right? You know, not gonna happen. I was surprised. I did have to stop by AutoZone this morning, and I was surprised that they do actually have the canisters for the old oil filter in this. Like it wasn't like they had like vintage oil filter canisters. I was like, what is this nonsense? So that's great. I mean, I've got some spares, but maybe. Yeah, one stream at a time. Another brain fart. But yeah, I mean, there's so many things where it's just going to be, yeah, like on today's stream, we'll just be doing the breaks, or not even all of them, just like now we're doing the front drums, right? I think that's how I'm going to plan to do the streams as we go forward, is like not necessarily have it all planned out, but kind of this is the challenge of the day, I guess, is to do this or to do that. Like that's why today's plan was really, you know, do stuff under the hood, you know, and I started, I don't know, it was like 3:30 or something, so I've been at this for 4 hours, which 4 hours is pathetically long to like clean the engine bay and do an oil change, but you know, it's kind of, I spent the first half hour just trying to figure out what was going on with my audio again, and now it's getting dark in here. I mean, you guys can't really see, but the skylights that I got, there's no light coming through them anymore. So I gotta do, oh, agitated, I don't know if you can see this, but the master cylinder's all messed up too. But it's not messed up, but if I point, you can see that's the filler cap there, and there's a giant hole in it, because there's that hole is where the nut for unscrewing that filler cap is. But it looks like when someone was trying to remove said nut, it was probably, I don't know, the filler cap was probably like frozen, so they put a little bit too much energy into trying to remove the filler cap and broke it. So that means that at the very least I'll need a new filler cap. But it's probably, yeah, like I'm thinking, it's probably just toast in there. On the upside, I was checking online on, and a new master cylinder for that. I mean, not that I couldn't get, and I probably will get, you know, a newer, more up-to-date master cylinder. Or even if possible, what I might end up doing is trying to locate the factory, I might just try and locate the factory power steering units for the 55 Ford, because that was a factory option, and put in at least, you know, the power, the factory power steering unit, the master cylinder and whatnot, because I mean, you know, if I'm going to be running all discs anyways, power brakes would be nice. I mean, it's cool that this thing has power steering and all, but like as far as options go, this is pretty lean. I mean, it has the plexiglass top, which is the most rare and unique of options, but you know, it doesn't have power windows, it doesn't have power seats, doesn't have air conditioning. Yeah. Yeah, but yeah, like I had been saying, for the original power cylinder, master cylinder. If I just go with replacing the unit that's in there with a reproduction of the original unit, it's only like $75, which is like super cheap. Yeah, you'd replace the whole master cylinder for like no effort. Oh yeah, power steering is super nice, especially on an old car like this, because sure you have that really big steering wheel, but it, unless you're actually cruising along, if you're going real slow or you're not moving at all, not having power steering is just, it's a dog. Ugh. So yeah, that's going to be a stream. Doing the master cylinder is going to be a stream. The interior is probably going to be 2 streams, or like 10. I got to replace the floor pans. They're all rotted out, and there were replacements welded in, but the replacements are starting to rot out. So that needs to be done. The front kind of cross member up here needs some at least tack welds, because it's looking a little. The person who welded it before kind of did like an amateurish job. So I'm gonna get my buddy who professionally welds nuclear submarines, and I'm gonna make sure that he does a once over on the spots on the frame that I'm a little iffy about, because I want this thing not to fall apart from underneath me. Fortunately, in a lot of ways, it's not too rusted. The only real body rust that was on it is the under the door sills. That was pretty rusted, but somebody already welded in new rocker panels, so those are good. And then just on the rear fender back here is some rot, but I mean that's pretty minor. So as far as like actual visible exterior rot, there's almost none. I mean, the car's been garaged at least for the past 30 years, so in that respect it's doing pretty well. And it did go through a pretty extensive restoration in like the early 70s, so I think that's when most of the panels that were put in, so they're not too bad. But the floor pans, the ones that were put in, were kind of cheap and ugly. And again, I don't care too much about how good the floor pans look, because they're going to be under carpet, and unless I'm under the car, I'm not going to see them. But I do want to make sure that they're not going to rust out from under me. So that'll be a stream. I'm trying to think of there's so many little things. That's the worst part about it, is there's all these little tiny things, and it's the stuff that you don't even think of until afterwards. You're like, oh, I need to do this and this, and then you're like, and then this, and this. It's like the big stuff like pops into your head easy, which is why I made a list of all the things that I noticed that I need to do. There's going to be like 10 times more things that I didn't notice. Because in my experience anyways, it's like you fix, or not even you fix one thing, you're in the process of fixing something when you notice there's something else wrong. So it's kind of like one step forward, 8 steps back. You fix those 8 steps and you find another like 30 steps you need to do, and then eventually it's done. Or you run out of money. It's kind of one or the other. So, I think I'm going to call it here though, because I'm drawing a blank on what else I really need to get done, and I'm running out of light. So while I do have these wonderful fluorescent lights down here, the biggest problem that I have is that I just without the natural light, I can't really see what I'm doing. So give me a second here. So yeah, so I'm gonna call the stream here, and wrap things up because I do got to clean things. I do got to clean up some stuff around here, and hopefully for next time, which should be either tomorrow or Tuesday, we'll let that oil kind of do its work, and hopefully we should get the engine to crank. I know what I did when I did try hand cranking it. It was last fall, so I think it was around September. I was able to get about a quarter of a rotation before it stopped. So I'm thinking it's probably just whatever that it's caught up on. It might be a stuck push rod or something, and the cam's not spinning or something. But it could just be a stuck piston. I'm not sure, but we'll at this point we'll let the oil do its work. Hopefully the engine should spin over. I mean, the car has been, like I said, it has been garaged for the past 30 years, so it's very unlikely that it's entirely seized up. It's probably just a stuck piston ring or something. So I was glad you guys could join me, and hopefully next time I'll be a little bit more energetic. I didn't bring my I didn't bring a Red Bull with me, so I'm kind of like. So yeah, thanks for tuning in. I hope that you enjoyed it. I know those last like hour, 45 minutes, or I don't even think it's at least half hour has kind of just been FaceTime with Matt, but it's yeah. See, my brain is just gone. All right. Yeah. Great to see a crew member. Great to see Agitated. I'm glad you guys could stop by. So we'll figure out what I'll do. I'll come up with a list of what I'm going to do next time, and that way I'll have like when I have another brain fart as to what am I doing next, I can look at that list and go, that's what I'm doing. So that's going to be it for me for today. And I am caked in crud. So I'm going to clean things up around here, clean myself up, and then drive home for a half an hour. Or not a half an hour, an hour and a half. It'd be nice if it was a half hour. All right. Catch you next time, guys. That's going to be it for me.